Good morning, nerds. Today we're talking Soros. Not George Soros, the game Soros, the one that just came out for, who was it, PlayStation? Sony. Came out for Sony. My goodness. Anyway, grab yourself some coffee, sit back, relax, and let's get into it, shall we? And before we do that, did you know I stream Monday, Tuesday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time? You should hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and come join us when we play some video game, or on Fridays when we talk about the news. You can join the conversation about topics like the one we're about to go on. So I'll see you there. So I originally wasn't going to talk about this game. Why? Because this was kind of like a PlayStation only title. And at least there's some data to look at and, actually see in real time for the most part. It makes it really, really hard to talk about it. Or at least it does for me, because I've got to see what it's doing before I can properly make fun of it, right? But yeah, so according to the story for this game, it's nothing that great. Okay, apparently, I guess you're a guy, you're searching for your wife went to the place first, your wife is upset and leaving you, kind of deal. There's apparently some kind of other thing with, like a lesbian lover or something. I don't know if any of that is true, because I hadn't really played it, but that apparently is supposedly what's making the rounds with this game, right? Now, as somebody who does own a PS5, you would think this is something I should buy. But no, I just don't play console that much. My kids are console peasants, unfortunately for them, because I gotta buy them a whole new computer in order to fix that. I'm waiting for the Steam machine now. Yeah, so we've got Saros may struggle to recoup its budget despite great reviews, which is kind of not a good sign. Not a good sign at all. So I have no idea who these people are, right? These House Marquis. House Marquis? Is that how it said? House Marquis, right? So I had to look them up real quick out of curiosity. I've not seen them, and apparently you've got their history of Bloodhouse and Terra Marquis here from 1993 and 1994, which makes this an older studio, which is not exactly what I was expecting, right? But they apparently developed something called Stardust way back in the day for Atari, the Amiga, and Super Stardust, with which was published by Team 17. Which is an interesting thing, because I like Team 17. Team 17, I think, are the ones who gave me Worms, right? That sounds horrible. The ones who gave me Worms. Worms Armageddon, okay? Those games with the holy hand grenades and stuff. And the worms that fight each other. Anyway, yeah, Team 17 gave me Worms. That's a clip. He gave us a couple of other things. And then one was canceled, called PID. And then House Marquis, when they came together as one entity back in like 1994, they gave us Super Stardust Alien Incident for DOS. They gave us a game for Microsoft, Xbox. Gizmodo was a platform. Sorry, what? Gizmodo was a... That's a console? I feel like I just fell into a rabbit hole looking at this, because I've never heard of that before. The Gizmodo. The handheld console. Huh. Anyway, Gizmodo was a website as far as I'm aware. But anyway, so yeah, and then they did Super Stardust Golf Tee Up. I vaguely remember that game. You've got Dead Nation, Outlander, and then from there, from about I guess around 2012, they only primarily, for the most part, developed for PlayStation. That was their main thing. So they've got several games leading up to Soros here, and the thing is, I don't know what any of these games are. I never heard of them. And they're for the most part, they're PlayStation exclusives, with the exception of one that was for apparently Microsoft Windows back in 2017. I guess they did one in 2015 or 2021 as well, where they released for the PS5 and Windows. But a lot of their games have been PlayStation exclusives, and wow, it's just not something you hear about. Or at least their games aren't something you hear about. So I'm assuming they just don't do that well at all. They've never really done too well to hold a splash. I don't know. Anyway, so let's take a look here. House Marquis Saros launched earlier this month to rave reviews. This is a legitimate frontrunner for Game of the Year. Listen, if a journalist tells me something is a front runner for Game of the Year, I know the game is probably trash. Now I know I saw a few things where people were sharing clips and stuff on the Twitters talking about how great this game was and yada yada yada, and it was like it looked like a fast-paced third-person shooter to me, right? So it had gameplay, unlike Mixtape. The game actually had gameplay, so at least it had some gameplay and had some depth to it, right? Unlike some games we have these days. However, it appears sales of the games have thus far been slower than its predecessor, Returnal, and the game may struggle to recoup its budget, which is not a good sign. It really isn't a good sign, especially since Sony decided that they were going to go back to everything is exclusive to PlayStation again, which, on one hand, I hate it, right? Because I'm a PC player. I like to have the ability to play it if I want to legally, On the other hand, just like Nintendo, I think that's the only thing that really keeps them around is their exclusives at this point. But yeah, PlayStation's got to make that move if they want to survive as a console, I guess, for the most part. And I hate it, but I understand it. This, according to Renz Elliott of Alien, I can't say those words. Those are names. I can't read. Analytics. Estimated Saros sold approximately 300,000 copies. Really? There's 300,000? That's a big oof. Wow. Really? Anyway, in the first 2 weeks of sales, at least Marathon did better than that. It did what, 1.2 mil? Or maybe, did it go up? I think it might have hit 2 mil, maybe, somewhere. I don't know, I have to look it up in a hot second. But let's see, this figure is a little behind Returnal, a very similar game that was released much earlier in the PS5's life cycle. Saros is the first game developed by House Marquis since the studio was acquired by Sony, having operated independently and primarily developed games for the PlayStation system in years prior. Oh, so Sony owns them now? How much did Sony spend for them? You've got no. Okay, how much? Let's look it up real quick. How much did Sony buy House Marquis? Okay, stay with me, people. Stay with me. We'll see how this is. Sony acquired House Marquis from an undisclosed sum. Really? Really? This financial term of the transactions was not revealed due to contractual commitments. Okay, so I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, we're not going to know how much Sony spent on this place. But, anyway. Wow. Another studio that Sony acquired that isn't doing so hot and probably overpaid for it too. How much you want to make a bet they overpaid for it? Because I say that because they have overpaid for several studios at this point. We've watched it happen, especially Bungie, where they acquired it for how many billions of dollars? Oh my gosh, like, seriously, like if you were talking about old Bungie staff, I get that kind of payment, but not this Bungie staff. Anyway, thus far, a huge percentage of Saros players have previously played Returnal. Okay, well, there you go. At least you got player retention, right? Estimated at 79%, and about 1/3 of the game's sales thus far were during the early access period. The slow start suggests it will struggle to break even, given the reports of $76 million department budget. So they spent $76 million on this game. The power of exclusives come at a very interesting time for the industry. Report in recent months indicate Sony may be moving away from releasing in single player PC or PS5 games on PC. They said it. Like they came out and outright said it. Like we just talked about this. Anyway, as well, Returnal, for instance, came to the PC about 2 years after its console launch, but possibly that's the other thing too, right? Like the reason they're not wanting to release on PC, their excuse is it doesn't do that well, right? And that's because they typically wait 1 to 2 years after the game has launched to then release it. So there's no buzz about it, there's no talk about it, there's no hype about it. Anything you had was people who passively looked at it and said, that looks good. Then they found out it was on PS5 and went, oh, I don't own one of those. And then they forgot about it, right? That's the problem with them going into this whole exclusive thing, or this whole exclusive thing, trying to claim that the PC sales just don't make it. I want to say Wild did pretty dang good on the PC for the first time, compared to, say, its predecessors, which they waited a year before they released them to the PC, which didn't do as well as a result. Meanwhile, other games, I think like Final Fantasy, the remake, did decent on PC because, you know, it's Final Fantasy VII. So, you know, it was a name thing there. But for the most part, that's the problem. When you release the game so much later after it had already come out, everybody's already seen it. They've already played it if they wanted to play it. So, and anyone who had a passing interest done forgot about it years ago. But yeah, those who bought Saros are certainly sticking with it. With more than 20% have already finished it. That doesn't tell me much. Like 20% has already finished your game. It's been out for a week or a couple of weeks. Week, and yeah, that's not helpful. But anyway, so let me know what you think down in the comments below. Is this a successful game or not? I don't think it's going to get there when they're already coming out and saying, yeah, we may not even break even on this one, fellas. So let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I will talk to you later.